fights with passion, and he inspires.
Are you ready for a war?
All right, welcome back to From 8 Arbitration, the Tuesday edition. I did do one Saturday. I put it up, and then I got to thinking about it, and I deleted it. And I'll tell you why in just a second. But I did have one up because everybody's messaging and say, hey, man, I see you got one up, but where's the audio? I deleted the episode. And so I'll talk about that in just a second. Like I said, I got a couple of shout-outs that I'm going to do first, and then we're going to get into it. But yes, I did do one. And so, yes, I took it down. All right. First, Mallory. I've not done this in a few weeks, and I apologize to her, but Mallory, if you get on from 8arbitration.com, make sure you show her some love. We had a fantastic time down in Branch and at the Texas State Convention, and it was hosted by Branch 181 in Austin. Fantastic time. A lot of incredible individuals coming up and talking to me, talking to the CLC, James Henry and Kamisha and all of us, and it was an amazing time. A lot of people talking about the website, how much the website has helped. None of that would be possible. None of that would be possible without Mallory. And so if you get on from 8arbitration.com, you'll see there the thing about give her some coffee, buy her a coffee. Give her some love. Show her some love, because I would not be able to do what I do if it was not for Mallory. Anybody who's ever won a grievance based off of From 8 Arbitration, she's got a hand in it, because she puts up the site, she puts up the descriptions of the episodes. She is invaluable to me, and she's invaluable to y'all if y'all have ever gotten on there and gotten any help. So give her some love, please. And I apologize to her because I've not done it in a while. She did not say anything about it, but I said that I would do it every week, and I didn't. And so I apologize to that young lady, but get on there and give her some love, please. Also, very special friend of mine, somebody that's on the CCA corner, somebody's a very outspoken advocate for the city letter carrier. Badmouth Morris is in a bad way, and he's currently living in a tent, and they've had a GoFundMe set up for him, and at no time, and this is part of the reason I deleted my episode Saturday, because I was hostile. More hostile than I've ever been Saturday on the episode. And like I said, I'll talk about that in a bit, but part of it was due to that. He's a good friend of mine, and I love the guy. And to see any of my people in light blue having to live in a tent because they cannot make a living wage, it upsets me. And I was upset Saturday. Maybe one of these days I'll put that episode out there, but you're talking about record-breaking F-bombs. So I was sitting on my couch thinking about it. I was like, I'm taking that down. But go, if you have the GoFundMe, if you see the GoFundMe on social media, shoot my man a little money, Badmouth Morris, all right? Shoot him a little money, because nobody in light blue should be living in a tent or living in their cars. Nobody. And that's where we're at. And I'll talk a little bit about that in just a second. I also want to give a shout out to Branch 3792, Midland, Texas. Had a couple of individuals from that branch come up to me. Incredible individuals. All of them down there were incredible. I'm telling you, we had the best time. So much love. We had a meet and greet last night, and the capacity was 65 people. And it was kind of a fundraiser type thing. We had 85 show up just to say hi, just to meet and greet us and talk to us and listen to us. And so it was a fantastic time. But Branch 3792, Midland, Texas, asked me to give them a shout out. Absolutely. President Peter Vasquez, Vice President Jock Boxer. I hope I said that right. Y'all know how I am with names, and I apologize. Then you got Joe Gonzalez, also the Pitbull. Ezra Huerta. So I'm giving y'all a shout out. If I beat those names up, I apologize to you. But there you have it. Got another shout out. If you could give a shout out to a president who has been helping me from the beginning from Iowa. His name is David Bryant. He's a fucking badass management nightmare. And so absolutely. So David Bryant, the fucking badass management nightmare. There's your shout out, brother. So somebody that asked me to give you some love because you're doing things and you're representing your people like we should. And the sad part of going down to Texas was all the people that were talking about, the lack of education and representation they're getting. And I know that we had an individual start a podcast the other day, a retired individual, took exception to me saying that the NALC doesn't educate. He said the NALC does great education, and that's true. They just don't educate everybody. It doesn't matter if you've got the greatest education in the world if everybody doesn't have access to it. It means nothing. I've had more individuals just this weekend come up to me and say that they've learned more from Formate Arbitration than all their union meetings combined. That's sad. But like I said, when I started this, I had a couple of individuals that I love dearly come up to me and ask me to start it because they said, we're not reaching the smaller stations. We're not reaching those smaller stations and giving them the education that they should, and asked me to start this. I would not have started. I only listen to podcasts. Wouldn't even thought to have started one if it wasn't for those individuals saying, hey, we're not reaching small stations. Can you help us out and educate? Because I've been through a couple of things. I've dealt with a couple of grievances in my time. And so I said, yeah, I'll do that. But the amount of people just this weekend that have come up and said, hey, if it wasn't for the podcast, from the individuals that you've had come on there and educate, we would have got no education at all. So yeah, the union may do the best education in the country, but they're not educating everyone. Everybody doesn't have access to it. So it really doesn't mean anything unless you're able to go. Those few that are able to go, that are chosen or can afford to go. But that's one of the things that James Henry is passionate about. Probably the greatest educator this union's ever had is James Henry. A lot of people down there singing his praises as far as his education. Now, all those things have been stripped from him. Every one of his responsibilities have been stripped from him because he's running. And that's another thing that's pissed me off. Because here you have a guy in James Henry. I'm just going to talk, if y'all don't mind. I'm just going to talk this episode. All right, we'll do some more education tomorrow on Lions Den, and then Sunday. Well, I won't be here Sunday. I'll be in Minneapolis. But when we get back, I'll start educating again on Formate Arbitration. But if y'all don't mind, I'm just going to talk to you today. I'm settled down from Saturday, so it's not going to be hostile. But here's a guy in James Henry who has the resume of all resumes. None of the people running put together have the resume that James Henry has. And that's a fact. If they get other people to run, you can have 10 people run. All 10 together wouldn't have the resume of James Henry. Period. The guy is that big of a stud as far as the union is concerned, and representing city letter carriers and educating city letter carriers. So here's a guy that has come out and said, hey, I want to make a difference. I'm going to run for president because I don't like the way things are going. And so you have people lie on him, lie to him. You've got all of his responsibilities stripped away from him. You've got cowardly motherfuckers mailing out from Cleveland, Tennessee, a decision of his from back in 35 years ago to disparage this man's name. You've got individuals putting out divorce papers, something that was devastating to him, something that hurt him deeply. And you got people doing that. And then when he confronts those individuals, they say, hey, all is fair in love and politics. All is fair in love and politics. So they put out his divorce papers, something that was devastating to him. Then you have others in executive council meetings sneaking and taking pictures of this man for the sole intention of hurting him. All because you have an individual say, hey, I'm going to step up and help the city letter carrier. I believe the city letter carrier is in dire need of a different direction. And so you have all these things happen to this man. And you know what he says? I'm leaving it all in the hands of God. He will not disparage anybody. He will not talk about anybody. He keeps the same message. Hope. Hope for the city letter carrier. And so that's another thing that's kind of pissed me off, because here's a man that I love deeply, that if it wasn't for him, I would not be running for executive vice president if it wasn't for James Henry and his vision. And so, yeah, you see all these things happening to this guy because he says, I want to make a difference. The ironic thing is this, and I talked a little bit about this last night when I was at the meet and greet. You have a retired national officer. Now, James Henry, they voted to let him speak because he was not there on union business. And so they had a motion to let James Henry speak to the body. And it was overwhelming, the people that said yay, to let him speak. Afterwards, you have a retired national officer come up to the person who made the motion and talking about, why did you do that? James Henry is divisive. James Henry is divisive. That's what he said. Name one thing that James Henry's ever done or said that's been divisive. If that's the case, the greatest president we've ever had, Vince Sombrado, would have been labeled divisive because he went up against the establishment as well. James Henry says that we're going to change the culture on the workroom floor. We're going after those managers that created a toxic working environment. That's divisive. You have James Henry's message that we're going to be the industry leaders in wages. That's divisive. In benefits, that's divisive. In working conditions, that's divisive. We're going to get a control of the grievance process. That's divisive. We're going to stay timely with the interest arbitration. We're not going to go past the deadline. That's divisive. Somebody spreading a vision of hope. That's divisive. It's divisive to those who want the status quo. That's who it's divisive to. Those that want the status quo, that want to keep the good old boy network, that want to keep the establishment in place, James Henry is divisive. I will be divisive all day long, if that's the criteria. But it shows you how desperate the establishment is right now with the CLC. You got people coming out of retirement just to talk about the CLC. National officers coming out of retirement just to talk about the CLC and me. That shows you how desperate they are to keep the status quo. And they will be losing the status quo come next year. It's a foregone conclusion. James Henry is a runaway freight train right now in this country. The city letter carriers, like I said long ago, have stood up. And so, my message Saturday was this on steroids. And it was all based off of a young lady. If y'all seen the video of the young lady that was delivering in Chicago, and an individual came up and opened her vehicle door. I think she was in a Metris. Opened up her vehicle door and her kids were in the back. Okay? Terrible mistake. Was she wrong? 100%. Terrible idea? 100%. But what I'm thinking is, and now you got to understand me. You got to understand who I am, and hopefully y'all do by now. I've told you I'm going to fight anything. I don't care what you've done. I'm coming. Really, that's how I feel. I don't care what you've done. Because who we go against are the most dishonest individuals you will ever meet. They are our enemy. And that's how I feel. They are my enemy. I've said long ago, I don't care if they've caught you dumping all your mail off a bridge, with your vehicle running, your wheels not curbed, 18 pounds of crack cocaine in the back of your vehicle. I don't care. I'm bringing it. Do you know why? Because the people that we work for are the most dishonest individuals you will ever meet. You heard the lady on the teleconference. Everything she said was a grievance. But that's the way they are trained, to hate the city letter carrier. You could tell she hated us. You could tell the disdain that lady had for us. She tells them, set their expectations based off of pet. That's a grievance. Set their expectations based off of DOAS. That's a grievance. If they're limited or light duty, don't give them work. That's a grievance. Go out there and base things off of their performance without doing any kind of thing to check their performance or to gauge their performance, such as an 1838C or a 4584, go out there and berate them based on their performance, even though they've not done the first damn thing to gauge our performance. That's a grievance. So everything that this idiotic woman said was a grievance, but that's how they are training their supervisors and managers. You talk about a hostile working environment, you see why. Now, why there's a hostile working environment, why those supervisors and managers are turned into the ones that they're turned into. It's because of imbeciles like that lady on that teleconference and like that man on the teleconference who didn't even know there's a step 4 talking about we have no street standard. There's no set pace at which I must walk. That's what we're up against. You're talking about individuals who are weaponizing pet. You heard that. You were able to hear that on the audio. You know that for a fact. I've been talking about it for a year now. We've done episode after episode about pet and 3996s and DOAS and street standards and all these things like that. We've been dealing with that forever, educating on that. They've weaponized pet. They're weaponizing DOAS. You heard that. They're weaponizing the 16.7. I talked to an individual in Texas, and we talked about the 16.7, weaponizing that with the seatbelts. That's weaponizing things. When you have an alternative to do things, to be corrective, such as just give an official discussion, but you have mandates from national telling individuals to go out, and if you catch people without their seatbelt on, put them on emergency placement. Call the manager, have the manager come out there and put them on emergency placement. That's weaponizing 16.7. This individual said that he asked a question in a stand-up and was put on emergency placement for 35 days. 35 days for asking a question on the workroom floor during a stand-up. I don't care how you ask the question. What is the emergency the day after? 35 days they did that. They're weaponizing 16.7. They weaponized these scanners. Now, of course, most of that's based on our dumbass president, and that's another reason that I deleted the message, because after a while, you're just beating a dead horse to death. You're reviving the horse just to beat it to death again. And so that's basically, I've got to get off of that beating this dead horse of our president as an imbecile. At some point we have to move on. What's the CLC going to do? How are they going to handle things differently? Have James on here to give his vision, how he's going to handle things differently. Eventually have to do that, but I'm still a city letter carrier. So these things still ring true to me when I hear my brothers and sisters tell me stories over messenger, email, call me, text, or in person. And so it still pisses me off. But him allowing in a joint process for management and the union to ask us questions based off of scanner data is idiotic. Here's the reason why, and I've said it before. We're doing management's job for them. Because if management sees something that we're doing during this period of time, they're obligated under 134 of the M39 handbook to get up off their lazy ass and go out on the street and see why. If we're loitering or if they have any kind of evidence of us loitering, to go out there and visually see us doing something wrong. We have made it now with these memos, but of course the memos are gone now, but we made it in those memos where management no longer had to do that. They could question us 6 weeks later. Only this time they had the union present, and they could adjust our routes based off of that questioning, if they didn't like the answer we gave. So our president made it easier for management to be lazy by doing that. You don't ever put anything in a memo removing management's responsibilities that they have. And that's what that did. Obviously, the times on the memos. You don't reduce office times. You heard this lady talking about 20 minutes on the audio. That's pet. But you've got the incompetence of our enemy right now. It's unlike anything I've ever seen, and that's the failed leadership of our business agents is the sole reason that you have the incompetence you have right now on the workroom floor. Entire routes not being delivered. Mail just being brought back, not being delivered. That's what we do. We deliver mail, but mail just being brought back, not being delivered. This is nationwide. You have places where mail hadn't gone out in weeks. People have sent me that, pictures of that. You see on the media, on the news, parcels just stacked up in places not being delivered. The incompetence of management, the non-compliance of grievance settlements, hijacking the grievance procedure. Management has hijacked the grievance procedure. I was talking to some individuals in Seattle. And management there, labor is told, informal and formal, just don't settle. Just don't meet. Have them send them up. They've been waiting on grievances for 7, 8, 9 months. Management has hijacked the grievance procedure. I was talking to an individual today. They signed off on a grievance settlement at informal. On a quarterly, $41,000. $41,000. This is in Louisville. So the manager or the supervisor starts sending messages to the person that's signed off on it with us, saying, hey, look, basically, I fucked that up. Can we rescind that resolution and do it again? Sending this message over text. Can we just rescind this? Give me a do-over on that. Because obviously they got with labor and they said, you just signed off on $41,000. You need to do something, but we're not paying it. So they're sending out these text messages. Look, we need a do-over here. I need to rescind that. If you don't mind, we need to rescind that. Can't do that. So what do? They falsify an 8190 and said that the union didn't produce the evidence to support the grievance settlement, and so therefore we're not going to settle this and we're going to send it up. They falsified the 8190. JB here had an instance where management signed off on something with an informal and labor got involved, and they came up and they said, hey, we're sending this to formal A, and JB said, hang on just a second, it's settled. No, this supervisor saying that the shop steward falsified the 8190. JB's like, I've got proof. I've got evidence that it was signed by the supervisor. I've got evidence of that. And so that's who we deal with on the daily. We deal with the most dishonest, disloyal, stealing, backstabbing, trifling individuals I've ever seen. And so, getting back to this young lady. So this young lady has the kids in the back of her vehicle. And I'm seeing this pop up everywhere, this video. And people talking about her. And saying, she needs to be fired, endangering this and that. And I'm thinking to myself, and this is just how I think. I think of my daughter. Because my daughter was a single mother. And she struggled mightily when my grandson Jace was little. She struggled mightily. She tried to do it on her own. It was a terrible situation. She struggled terribly. And I would go behind her back and pay off things that she would have no idea. I remember she had a storage place. And I went over there and checked on it, and it was an astronomical amount of money she owed. And so I paid that off for her. And of course, it's my daughter. That's how I'm going to do it. But when I see this young lady, I'm thinking of my daughter and the situation that she was in. Was what she did wrong? 100% it's wrong. Was it a terrible idea? 100% it's a terrible idea. But here's how I think. And this is why I deleted my episode. It's because I went off. I went off. And it goes back to just beating a dead horse now, because everybody understands the incompetence of this fool we have at the top. He understands it. His ticket or whoever the slate is understands it. That's where people are dropping off like crazy. I don't even know if he's going to run now, but here's a young lady to me, and I can tell you her story. I don't know the young lady. I've not talked to the young lady. Don't know her name, where she's at. I know it's from Chicago, I believe. But I'm going to tell you her story, and I could be completely wrong. But I imagine that this young lady has attendance issues. And majority of those attendance problems are probably going to be because of childcare. She talked about it in the video. And if you look at it, I watched it probably 15 times. If you look at this young lady, now she handled it terribly, but, kind of a mama bear came out there, and when somebody opened up that door and there's her babies, and then there's, somebody's videoing them, you could tell hostility quickly. She was hostile. And so that mama bear kind of came out in her. But you could see, if you looked closely in her face, you could see fear. You could see how fearful she was in her eyes. If you just keep watching, you'll see what I'm talking about. It kind of changes from she was extremely angry to fear. And so, of course, being a dad, I'm thinking of my daughter. And so she talks about, hey, their dad's coming to get them. So to me, that made it sound like maybe she's a single mother, trying to do it on her own. We talk about that all the time. The two people, if you want to get my ire up, if you want to get me extremely angry, you go after veterans and single mothers. Now, I'm going to fight for everybody the same. But if you want to get me pissed while I'm fighting for them, fuck with veterans, single mothers. All right? Because my dad's a veteran and my daughter was a single mother. Now, she's got a fiance who's the greatest thing that's ever happened to her besides her son. So I'm going to say that this young lady probably has attendance issues. I could be wrong. And it's probably based off of child care, child being sick, things to deal with that. If y'all dealt with attendance-related discipline long enough, you know what I'm talking about. So she's basically given no choice to me. She's probably at the end of that rope where if I keep calling out, I'm going to be terminated from my job. And so she does something that she shouldn't have done. She brings her kids with her and puts them in the back of the van. She says that their dad is coming to get them. Here's where I deleted my episode. During this period of time when we're waiting on the TA, we're being lied to by our president. And that will do him in. That is going to be his undoing. Because the one thing you don't do is you don't lie to your members and you don't turn your back on your members. He did all those things through the TA, right? But he promised us that he would settle for nothing less than 9%. Now, we've talked about this a million times. That's why I deleted it, because you're kind of beating a dead horse right now. But seeing that video, it brought all that back to me. All right? All those frayed ends came back. And so I'm thinking of this young lady during that period of time. She's probably struggling financially. She's probably dealing with attendance issues. Child care probably is a big problem because she talked about that. And you've got a president promising her that he's going to give her 9%, or he will settle for nothing less than 9%. I can hear her say, please God, let that be true. Please God, let that be true. For my baby's sake, let that be true, because that will help me get the child care that I need. 9% is exactly what I need. Please let my president be telling me the truth. If she's a CCA, and I don't know, and your president is telling you that we're going to have nothing less than an all-career workforce, or that's a non-starter, she's probably saying, please God, let that be true. For my baby's sake, let that be true. I need that to be true. If she's a CCA, she probably heard him say, if you're going to keep CCAs, a contingent of CCAs, they're going to come in with a substantial starting wage. And I can hear this young lady say, please God, let that be true. Please God, let that be true. For my baby's sake, I need that to be true. The entire time not knowing that she's being lied to by this president of ours. She's being lied to the entire time. We've all heard those promises made. She heard those promises made to us. The entire time knowing that that was a lie that he was telling us. Just to be able to kick this can down the road for 700 days because a poor man will eat a bag of shit if you starve him long enough. A poor man will eat a bag of shit if you starve him long enough, and that's exactly what your president did. He tried to starve us and handed us a bag of shit while these motherfuckers were eating filet mignon across the table from each other, laughing their asses off about what they're fixing to do to this craft. And we said no. We said no. We said, we want you to fight as our agent, as the president who gave us this bag of shit. We're going to hand it back to you. And we want you to fight for us because we think that we deserve way more. We think that. We think that we deserve way more than that because of what we do. And he told us, you will eat this bag of shit. That's exactly what he told this young lady that had her kids in the back of a vehicle who was relying on him to be truthful. He told her, you will eat this bag of shit and you will like it. And that's what got my ire up. That's the reason I was so angry. I was hot for this young lady's sake. And so I did an episode that would have come across as just beating a dead horse. That's all it would have been. Because I know, you know, the national officers that are coming out of retirement know, the ones that are saying James Henry is a divider knows, those that are refusing to run on his ticket know that this motherfucker's a lying piece of shit, and he hurt us as a city letter carrier craft. He hurt us. Now, he can sit up in front of Congress and read a prepared statement, a pre-written statement, and sound well. He does a good job at that, but the proof is in the pudding on what this motherfucker did to Light Blue. When he was behind the scenes, away from the cameras, away from the microphones, what he did was tell this young lady, take this bag of shit I've been negotiating for 700 days and eat it. We don't want it. I don't give a fuck. You're going to eat it anyway. And so I was thinking about that young lady when that happened. That's how my mind works. That's crazy, isn't it? It's crazy. But you have individuals that were eating filet mignon with Grey Poupon, sitting at a table with each other, lying to this young lady. Now, your enemy is probably going to try to take her job from her. Rather than the two motherfuckers that negotiated this bullshit, rather than them losing their job, this young lady is going to be in the fight for her life now, because she was promised things that could have helped her situation, and she was lied to by your president. You have carriers on welfare. You have carriers on WIC. You have carriers living in their cars, living in tents. You have union halls putting in showers because of the situation of Light Blue. Did you ever think that you would see that day? A union job would have that happen. And it's happening to us in Light Blue. You have management. You heard how they think about us. I told you about Bruce Getz. When we're trying to figure out something to do for the carriers in the heat, anything to help carriers in the heat. Now, this is the head of safety for the area. Now, he's over safety for the city letter carriers, but he's in management. And I said, hey, as a starting point, let's just let them stick their DPS there in the summer months. Those times don't count. You can't use them for anything. Let's let them stick their DPS, and maybe that will save them 30 minutes in that heat. That could be the difference between life and death. That's a starting point. No, can't do that. Ops says that they're worried about y'all's efficiency. Numbers above our life. I've always said that, right? They don't give a damn about your life. It's their numbers that count. What did you hear in that audio? Numbers over your safety. Push them based off of PET. Push them based off of DOAS. If they're injured, leave them at home. Don't let them work. Starve them to death. EOs, who cares? Push them. Push the carrier. Get them for their performance, even though you've done nothing to gauge their performance. Push them. You heard the DRT member when I read that email that he sent out, or that thing that he had written. The DRT member for management, where he stated, if the carrier gets out there and dies, oh well, who cares? If the carrier gets out there and dies on the street, oh well, who cares? They are our enemy. They are our enemy. And this young lady is now in the hands of our enemy, fighting for her life. What are you going to do about it? Are you going to say, she gets what she deserves? Are you going to say that? She gets what she deserves. Is that who you are? I want nothing to do with you. I want nothing to do with you at all. Because I say, you fight. If there's a 1% chance, you fight. With everything that you've got, you fight. Whoever's representing this young lady, you fight for her. With everything that you've got. We are going to surround ourselves with lions. We're going to surround ourselves with lions. And that's what we're going to train. And that's how we're going to educate. Is that management is the enemy that needs to be devoured. We are going to surround ourselves with lions. That when they hear this shit that's going on here, when they hear this shit, their first reaction is, God damn it, let's get it. Let's fucking get it. If I pull up in any of these trainings, in any of these classes we're going to do when the CLC takes over, and I say, baby, get in, we're riding. And you say, where are we going? I don't want you. I don't want you. That's not the mindset we're going to have when the CLC takes over. That's not the mindset. When James Henry called me and said, brother, I want you to be EVP. I said, pull up, brother. Let's go. Let's get it. When I tell you I'm pulling up and I say, hey, this is the mission that we're on. I don't need you to say, where are we going? I need you to say, God damn it, let's go. Let's get it. That's what we're creating here with the CLC. That's what we're creating here. I talked to you about the dogs of war. And I said this last week, I believe. When I put that out, that we were going after the toxic working environment, James Henry and I sat down and said, what are the things that are not being done? We've dealt with the toxic working environment for too damn long. What can we do differently to address it? We came up with the dogs of war, nationally going after it the right way. Getting district managers involved in the process, getting AVPs involved in the process, being a complete disturbance to them. You got to make them uncomfortable at the highest level. Because you see what they do on telecoms. They're pushing their individuals, supervisors and managers, to do things that are not contractual, to create a toxic working environment. So you have to hold them responsible for that. And you can do that. Now, I see clowns on social media saying, hey, the CLC thinks management is just going to... I'm not concerned about what management does. They're out of the equation. We're removing them from the equation. We're not going to sign any kind of joint process on fixing the toxic working environment. We're taking this over ourselves. We're handling this ourselves. And that's what's going to happen. So when we announced the dogs of war, James Henry and I said that's what we're going to do. We're going to have a director of education again, and he will be or she will be the most disliked individual in the NALC from postal management. They will dislike the director of education more than anybody else because they will be on the forefront of all these things. The education of every member, not just shop stewards, formal A's, DRT, arbitration advocates, not just them, every member is going to be educated on things that are going on the working floor and things to talk to your stewards about, grievances that we have. And so we talk about the dogs of war, and I said, hey, we're going to have an email, sign up. This is how many I would like. I met that number in a day and a half. I met that number in a day and a half, and we've almost quadrupled that number now. So I just quit talking about it because I'm like, hold up, hold on just a second. Because the carrier has stood up. They have started educating themselves. You hear these podcasts that are coming out, still coming out, educating themselves, not just in postal matters, but union matters. You see that more and more. They have stood up when we talk about the dogs of war. They have stood up and said, hey, I want to be a part of that. We will have teams for toxic working environment, falsification of clock rings. I want teams for that. I'm going to be the biggest snitch that there ever was to my counterparts on high. I'm going to ask them what they're doing about these things. We'll have teams for heat-related issues that managers intentionally put my carriers in harm's way. All of these things will be addressed outside of locally. We will handle those things, educate those teams for that. There is a new day coming. I've been saying that too long. There's a new day coming. It's inevitable. The city letter carrier has stood up, and they're tired of the shit that's been going on. Everywhere we go, it's the same message. We cannot wait for you to get in there. We cannot wait to start kicking management's ass on this working floor through the grievance procedure. We cannot wait till y'all start getting a hold on the toxic working environment on these floors. That's happening. That's coming. But we'll start having a message of what the CLC is going to do. We'll start doing that. We've got a little over a year until nominations in LA. And so James will be coming on here a lot more. We'll be telling you about the things that we're going to do. And so, I'm excited. I cannot wait to get in there and get started. Educate yourself as much as you can, because like I said, when we get in there from day one, we're running. We're rolling on day one. All right? So educate yourselves. If there's one thing you can do, educate yourselves. If you want to be part of these teams, email us and let us know. And we're going to have contractual killers going out that have no remorse for anybody. It's a new day coming. It's a new day. And I cannot wait. But that was the message that I deleted Saturday with about 1/10 of the curse words. I was hot Saturday when I saw this young lady in that video, because like I said, I'm thinking the promises made to this young lady that would have helped her out immensely, only to be lied to by our president. And then you got clowns, dumbasses, retired national officers saying James Henry's divisive. God. You got a complete failure in our president and executive vice president, and James is the one that's being divisive. Why have they targeted James? Why not target anybody else that's running? Because James is the only one running that's got an ounce of integrity, and he's the only threat. He's the only viable threat, and he's the only one that's got any integrity. And they hate that shit. They hate that. Trust me, they hate that. He's got the best resume of anybody ever running for president. He's got the best resume. And so they're fearful of that. So they're going to send out decisions from 35 years ago. You have people running against him that are going to put out his divorce papers and say, hey, everything's fair game in love and politics. You got him taking all his duties away, lying on him, lying to him. Why? Because he's going to be the next president of the NALC, and they hate it. They hate that he's getting rid of the good old boy network. They hate that. They hate that he's getting rid of the establishment, the status quo. They hate that. And so to them, he's divisive because he's putting a wrecking ball of that shit. But I promise you this. We're just getting started. We are just getting started. All right? We're going to continue to educate on from-aid arbitration. Even when we take over, I'm going to continue to educate on from-aid arbitration. Like I said, I have a Zoom every Tuesday. A nationwide Zoom. I'll tell you exactly who I talked to, exactly the teams that have gone out, where they're going, what they're doing, the results of those things, answer any questions that you got from me. If you got hot spots, you can let me know then. But that will be a live Zoom every Tuesday when we take over. All right? We're going to be transparent as hell. Like I said, James has said that we're going to keep contractual things timely. Interest arbitration is going to be timely. That's what's coming. That's what's coming. Thank you to those in Texas who came up and showed us some love. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. It meant the world to me, and I know it meant the world to James and Kamitra and those others that were there from the CLC. It meant the world to us. We'll be in Minneapolis this next weekend. Cannot wait to see my people up there. I'll have an episode on from-aid arbitration as soon as we get back. We'll get back into educating. I'd much rather be educating than talking like this. But, sometimes you need to go back to that old dead horse and beat it a little bit, right? So it was nothing like Saturday. That's the first episode in 200 something that I actually took down, because I was going crazy in here Saturday, man. Just, my union, I was coming straight from light blue Saturday. My union lying to us and putting this lady in a position to where she had to do something, that they're going to try to take her job for. But we'll fight for her. We'll fight for her, because that's what we do. She is in the hands of our enemy, and always remember that. Always remember that. They are our enemy. They are not our friends. They're not our co-workers. They're our enemy. We can sit down and talk with them. They want to come up with things, fine. Want to discuss things, fine. We can do that. We can be cordial. But at no time ever take your eye off of the fact that they are our enemy. They're never in any meeting to do anything other than to do us harm. You saw that firsthand in those memos, 1982, 83, 84. They fooled our president into signing off on these memos, knowing full well that they was going to take those times and bastardize them and cause us a world of hurt. A world of hurt. They fooled him into talking about these scanners. They finally got their foot in the door on these scanners, and they caused us a world of hurt, and still are, based off those scanners. And unfortunately for you, light blue, it's an inconvenience. I'm getting back into beating that dead horse. But so, as a letter carrier, man, I come home every day, and my shirt is about 20 pounds heavier, where I have sweated my ass off. And I've got people in suits in air conditioning on both sides fucking me over. And so, yeah, I'm going to be hot every once in a while. Every once in a while. I'll be on Lions Den tomorrow. We're going to continue to talk about pet, because that is the thing. You heard it firsthand. That is the thing. Okay? So we're going to deal with that. We're going to talk about pet and DOAS and how to beat those things. We're going to have some more cites. I know that's boring. It's boring to me. I hate it, but it's educational. I learn more than anything else by reading cites, because you got issue statements, you got management's positions, which will rarely ever change, and you got our position, okay? And so, light blue, I love you. Deeply, I love you. And I cannot wait to get in there and fight for you at a national level. I cannot wait. We are going to be some fucking repercussions. We're going to be the consequence that we've been talking about. We're going to be retribution in a biblical way when we get in there. James Henry's vision for what's going to happen, I cannot fucking wait to get in there and get started. Educate yourself. Get yourself ready, okay? Because when we go in there, we're going to hit the ground running, all right? I love you, light blue, with all my heart. I do. I love you. And so, apologize for putting the episode up Saturday and taking it down. A lot of people are saying, hey, man, where's the episode? But it was salty as hell. So, I took it down, man. And for that girl, we're going to fight for her, right? She's in the hands of our enemy. And so, I love you. And I'll talk to y'all tomorrow on Lions Den. We're going to get into some more pet and stuff, all right? Y'all have a great rest of the day, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye.